Hello, I'm Mal, and welcome to Master of Orion II Battle at Antares. Now, a couple of things. First off, this is what I'm going to refer to as the Prelude video or introductory video to Master of Orion II. If you're already familiar with this game, you're going to want to go ahead and jump to the next part. I'll put a little annotation here on the video to make that easier. And this is also the first of what I'm calling old school Sundays. So I don't know if I'm going to do it just quite yet exactly how I'm going to do the format, but I think what I'm leaning towards is that I'll put out a new, quote-unquote, new video of an old game every Sunday, and the game's going to have to be, at least a few years old, like 5 or 6 years or even longer. In this case, Master of Orion II originally came out in 1996, unless I'm mistaken, and was made by a company called Simtex, and distributed by a company called Microprose. So what is Master of Orion II? It is a 4X space strategy turn-based game, and is really sort of the granddaddy of this genre. You probably, even if you've never played Master of Orion II, have seen references to it. It is generally the standard at which all other 4X games, whether they're space-themed or not, or have been measured against. I've played this game off and on since it released. I love this game, and I would like to think that the majority of people that are fans of this genre are that they do love this game. So I'm gonna take you through, for those of you not familiar with the game, I'm gonna take you through this part. It's gonna be somewhat tutorial. I'm gonna explain all the options, which we'll get into now, how to set up a game. I'll go through all of this, and then we'll move into some basic concepts of the game. I will use a custom race to show you how you can build your own, your own race, your own empire. So we'll go through that a little bit. Then we'll do some basic colony management and the first few turns of sort of the initial going out and doing your exploration and whatnot. And then I'll probably end this video, and then the second video will pick up essentially near the beginning, right? So it'll be the race to expand will be what the second video is really all about. Okay, so now that we've sort of outlaid that, let's go through the settings here. So new game, we have difficulty setting here, tutor, easy, average, hard, impossible. Now I typically play on impossible, and what this changes is the amount of bonuses that the AIs get. I'm actually going to go ahead and play on hard through this particular playthrough because I just want to showcase the game. If you guys really like seeing me play Master of Orion 2, I may do some future playthroughs on impossible just to show you how to do it, how you can manage it. If you set it on impossible though, depending on the RNG, like where you start, what races you're up against, which empires, you can get your face smashed in pretty quick, even if you're very experienced with the game. So that being said, I'll just start with hard, which is definitely hard enough. Galaxy size, there's a couple of things here to consider. If you start on a small galaxy size, like with most 4X games, if you start with a quote-unquote small map, you're going to have a much faster engagement. It also means that the pace of the game is going to be quick and will be carried through, all of your tech levels and whatnot. You'll be fighting wars much sooner with lower tech levels and whatnot. So if you want a fast-paced game, this is a good way to do that. And then go ahead and leave it on 8 players if you just sort of want it to kind of go crazy very quickly, then that's what you can do. I however, want to have a moderately paced game. I don't want to meet the other empires just right away. I don't want to do that. So I'm actually going to set it on large. Now there's also cluster and huge. Now the reason I'm not going with cluster or huge is because in the late game, it can get a little tedious. There is a fairly high level of micromanagement in Master of Orion 2, which I do enjoy. If there's any criticisms of the game that I've seen, that's really one of them. It's mitigated to some degree, and we'll get into it. I'll show it to you in detail using the colony screen or the empire screen where you can shuffle things around, but it's still a lot of stuff to follow up on. But I'm going to go with large, and that's the reason why, because I don't want the late game to drag on. Okay, now Galaxy Age, this is kind of interesting. So, as you can see here, there's different galaxy ages: mineral rich, normal, and organic. Mineral rich increases chances of planets having mineral resources and decreases the chance of generating ones which create food. Okay, so essentially this is balanced. This is if you want more planets that have food, so this would be sort of growth oriented. This also means that you're going to have more planets that are more inviting. There's different classes of planets, and you're going to find more planets that are either they're going to be arid, or they're possibly going to be Terran, or maybe even some Gaia place type worlds. So they're going to be good environments and have the ability to grow food at a high rate. If you go with mineral rich, you're going to find irradiated worlds, you're going to find a lot of barren worlds and desert worlds and whatnot, sort of less hospitable ones, but they're going to have really high minerals. And the base mineral value of a world increases your productivity significantly. So we'll get into that. I'm going to go ahead and just go with average. Then you have number of players. Now, generally I do play on Impossible with 8 players on a large map, which means I run the risk of conflict very quickly. However, since the custom race that I'm going to build for you and show you in this particular playthrough, I've decided I'm going to play with a few less players to sort of give myself some breathing room, because the style in which I'm going to play in this one is with a sort of a turtle, kind of tech-focused research, and it's going to be kind of a turtle style. So I'll need to kind of slowly expand, be careful where I go, and then as I out-tech the other empires, I'll look for the ones that I can't make deals with, that I can't be quote-unquote buddies with, and I'll start picking those off. I'll start taking the smaller ones out first, and then once I have a big enough base of production and whatnot, then I'll go tackle probably whoever's number 3 on the list, take that person out, and then you've pretty much got the game sewed up. So yeah, I've already got it planned out. There you go, there's the win. No, we still have to play through it. We have to play through it. All right, now tech. Tech level's interesting because it's not just your starting tech, it's also the amount of resources that you start with in terms of colonies and ships. So you have advanced. If you start with advanced, you're actually going to have multiple colonies, and you're going to have a fleet already. You're going to have some infrastructure already built. You're going to have quite a few technology levels. If you go with advanced and do like a medium map with 8 players, that would be the settings that you would choose if you just wanted to get in the mix right away and just start battling people, because that's probably what's going to happen. What I prefer to do is go with pre-warp, which means you basically have nothing, you can't even leave your own system, and this also plays to the advantage of the type of empire I'm going to build. Because I'm going to be so research focused, this is going to give me a chance to sort of catch up a little bit. Again, because I have it on hard difficulty, the AIs have massive bonuses, and you can have particularly a production-focused opponent in your game that can sort of end up being a runaway AI, and that can happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen in this playthrough, but it most certainly can, and there's quite a bit of degree of randomness to the kind of galaxy, like where you start. All of those things can really affect the playthrough. So we're going to go with pre-warp to somewhat mitigate that. Then your last options are tactical combat, random events, and Antares attack. All right, so let me go through these briefly. Tactical combat simply means that you're going to control your ships when you fight. Now, you can still have the computer handle your engagements if you want. There is an auto feature that you can enable or disable when an actual battle begins. However, this gives you the option to be able to do that. If you just say, no, I don't want to do that, then you're just going to get a resolution screen that says, okay, this is what you lost, this is what they lost, and this is who won or lost. Which to me is not that fun. One of the really cool things about Master of Orion II is that you can actually build your own ships and, take advantage of certain things, especially early on, with designing ships that have like a ton of firepower. But, if you look in their general direction, they'll fall apart, and I'll show you that. But this makes for some fun little things that you can do, and I don't want to give that up, so I'm going to keep tactical combat on. Random events, in my experience playing this game, generally speaking, are bad for you. Okay, now I'm going to leave it on anyway, but my experience is that most of the time you end up regretting random events because a lot of not so great things, at least for me, maybe it's just my luck, end up not being great. Pirates raid one of my systems and take my money, or I lose research points because of blah, 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 or there's a sun that's about to go, or star that's about to go supernova, and I have to, put all my research towards that before it's going to destroy my civilization, those kinds of things. So I'm going to leave it on anyway, just because I think it makes the game more interesting. What I'm not going to enable, though, is Antares attack. Now, as the story goes, you have the Antares and the Orions. These were the two major civilizations that, the advanced civilizations that existed before any of these others. And the Orions do have a planet and some technology that's left behind. It's a special world that you can get through the course of your game. And the Antares, the way the story went, was that the Antares, at the end of their war, which basically devastated both civilizations, the Antares were sort of locked in like a pocket dimension. But if you enable this, as the story goes, they found a way to slowly come back out of said pocket dimension back into the known galaxy. These will show up initially as kind of small scout ships, and even a small scout ship, especially if it's, toward the mid-game, can just destroy an entire colony. Now, you would think that I don't want that to happen to me. I've actually had pretty good luck with this. What generally happens when I have this enabled is that they go after one of the bigger AIs. And I know what you're thinking, well, Mal, why wouldn't you want that? Well, because it sort of destroys the game. If they start attacking the biggest AI opponent that you have and weaken them, then it just becomes a snowball effect. It becomes too easy. So I don't want that. So this is a level of randomness that I just don't want to have, at least in this playthrough. In future ones, if I do it, maybe I will. But that's the reason why I am not enabling that. All right, moving on. Okay, select a race. You'll see down here in the left-hand corner what kind of bonuses or negatives each race may have. So I'm not going to go through each one in detail. I'll just hover over them, and you folks can see what they have in the bottom left. Now you'll see that some of them are listed as having a dictatorship or democracy as a government. Some of them have feudal. I'll go into this stuff in more detail once we get to the screen where we build our race, which is right here. So let me do that. Now you can see I'm saying it's the Psilon X is what I'm doing as my race. But here's where they are. This is what they start off as. +2 research, low gravity, large homeworld, creative, and dictatorship. Now I am basically saying I'm these guys, but I'm going to customize them. That's what I'm choosing to do. What happens when you customize, whatever picture you end up choosing for your race, I could name myself whatever I want, but I'm going to go ahead and go with this. This is fine. Whatever you choose, whatever picture you choose, so I could choose humans, their picture or whatever, they won't be in your game because they see that as the race being selected. So if that's another little strategy thing. If you, for instance, let's say you've played a couple games and these really aggressive tiger-looking guys, the Mershan, if they've been smacking you down and you want to kind of hedge your bets a little bit, well then make a custom race and pick these guys because they look cool anyway, and then you're not going to have to face off against them in your game. Make sense? All right, let's move back to custom race. Let's clear this out. Now, first thing you need to understand is that you have 10 points or 10 picks. If I don't choose anything, I'll get a bonus to my score, which is nice and all, but I'm not really ultimately that concerned about that. You can choose up to -10 in terms of picks, growth, farming, so on and so forth, giving you more points to spend. Now, what do you want to spend them on? Well, I'm not going to go through every single one because there's a lot of them. What I am going to do is sort of highlight some of the ones that I think are particularly strong. Okay, first off, large homeworld. 1 point gives you a large Terran world to start off on instead of medium. For 1 point, that's kind of a no-brainer. I also like rich homeworld an awful lot to give you, a base production of 5 instead of 3. That's a really good one. Now, the ones that are more expensive, though, are the ones that tend to be the most powerful. And I'll get to governments in a moment. I don't want to jump into that just yet. We'll stick over here on special abilities. Prismatic is pretty strong. Gives you bonuses to deal with other opponents in terms of trade and non-aggression pacts and whatnot. But the strongest ones are Creative. This is really, really, really powerful. What it does is that when you go to select a technology, there might be 3 separate things to research in a tier. You're going to have to choose one. You don't get the other 2 in that tier, and then you'll advance up a level in that particular tech area. You can get the other 2 by trading with another civilization that has it. You can steal it from another civilization, or you can get it sort of randomly. If you start attacking their colonies, you can get technology that way as well. If you're creative, however, if you research one technology in a group, you get them all. So this can really help you out and can be extremely powerful. Now, the disadvantage to this, however, is that on certain tiers, quite frankly, there's technologies that I don't care about, and I'm going to get them anyway. And I still think creative is very, very powerful, but it also costs 8 points. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select it, but now I only have 2 points left. And I want other stuff. As an example, I want to be omniscient. I want to be, or however you want to pronounce it, but I want to be able to see everything. And for 3 points, I can see everything on the map. Yeah, I can see everything I want to see on the map. So instead of having to spend tons of time scouting at the beginning, as soon as I have a colony ship, I know exactly where I want to send it, and I don't have to worry about it in the least. That's pretty phenomenal. So for 3 points, I'm taking it. Now, I'm at -1 already, so I'm going to have to balance that out. And there's still some other things I want. I want large homeworld. Told you that was a good choice, and it is. I want rich homeworld. Now I'm at -4. So what am I going to take to offset? Well, I'm going to take -2 against ground combat. Yeah. Well, it's -10 against ground combat, but it gives me 2 points. And what else can I take? Probably take ship defense to balance it out. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go with. So let's talk about governments. Feudal, the short version is your ships are cheaper, but you have a morale penalty if you don't have a marine or armor barracks on your planet. Morale is really rough in this game because it is a plus or minus in 10% increments across the board. So food, industry, research cuts it right across. So you start off on planets, new colonies, at a -20% to everything until you have built a marine barracks. Feudal also has 50% less research, which for me makes this just a no. It's just not going to happen. I don't care how cheap the ships are. I'm not doing it. Dictatorship, which I'm going to go ahead and go with, and I'm sort of stuck with. My defensive agents get a +10 increase due to internal security. I do have the -20 morale penalty for not having a marine or armor barracks. But no minuses to research. Democracy gives you +50% to generated... to all research generated by scientists, which is really significant, and 50% increased income when you have trade increases all tax revenue by 50%. So more money and more research. You get a -10 on your defensive agents, which actually is kind of rough. But if you can actually shoehorn democracy and creative into a single build, which you can, you're like super research guys. I mean, it's like kind of crazy. But you have to take an awful lot of negatives to make that happen. it's just, I'm going to go with this. We might experiment with something like that later. Last but not least is unification. Now, if you want to go with building a custom race and you're playing on, say, normal difficulty or easy, which you should if you play this game to start off, making a custom race with unification, maybe an additional +1 to productivity, large homeworld, rich homeworld. If you do something like that, it will be relatively easy for you to win, because you can outproduce all of the other AIs, particularly on that difficulty level. This is a really, really strong government overall. I just really like the whole research. I always tend to lean towards research-oriented empires, so when I build my own, of course, that's what I choose to do. But this is really strong, and certainly an option, and particularly strong when you're starting off. Alright, so this is what we're going with. We'll hit accept. And I think you know that I'm going to be Mal. Yep. And I'm going to choose red, simply because it's easier to see on the main map. Mintar. I don't want to call it that. Should we call it Mal? That seems a little lame. We'll call it Evo. Alright. Now that we're on the main screen here, I'll go through this part briefly, and I'll explain some of the basics, and then I'll end the video, and you guys can jump to the next one, which will actually be sort of the start of the gameplay. Alright, so let's go through this real quick. Colonies. If we had multiple colonies, we'd be able to manage them there. We've got 3 categories: farmers, workers, and scientists. This would be food, sort of industry or production, and research, which you can see over here. Planets. This allows you to search, and because we do have that trait that allows us to see everything, I can go ahead and do that right now. So let me see. Sort by climate, no enemy presence, normal gravity, and I'm going to say they don't have to be in range. Okay, so we've got something pretty nearby that has low production, but it's huge. It's Terran with normal gravity. This is a great candidate as an example for a farm world. We could build a infrastructure up here, which would cost us a little bit because it has low productivity, but this would make a great place to farm, because we don't really want to farm on our home world, because our home world's high industry, right? It's got a 5 production base. It's kind of a waste to farm there. This would be a great place to do it, so we're going to have to keep that in mind. Then we've got, let's see, how far is that away? Well, this would be nice to have, but it's really far away. Wow, we have a place with... Okay, let's take a look at this system in more detail. Where's that at? Min is right near us. Wow, this is an awesome system. So it has a large Terran world, and it has an ocean world, which is almost as good, and it has natives on the ocean world, which means that we'd get free farming right there, and we could terraform this later and make it a Terran world pretty easily. Yeah, this is a really good system. So this is probably the system we'll go after first. Yeah, most definitely. Alright, let's go through the rest of the interface. Fleets, right now we don't have any. Leaders, 2 types. Colony leaders, ship officers. When you have a colony leader, simply select the system that you want them and click on their portrait, and that allows you to assign them. They'll have various bonuses for, additions to farming, additions to your morale, addition to productivity, or what have you. We can get into that a little later. Ship officers will make your ships faster, give you more offense, those kinds of things. They can also have inherent abilities like plus certain amount of money every turn, or bonuses to trade agreements. It's not just about fighting. You need to pay close attention when you have ship officers as to what you're getting. You can only have 4 maximum. If you have this all filled up, you won't get offers for new leaders or officers. So make sure you leave 1 spot open if you're still looking for new and improved ones. They do get better over time, so if you see someone that has, kind of limited stats, but they're the kind of stats you want, you can hold on to them, and again, they'll get better over time. Races. Okay, so I know everybody that's going to be in the game here, who I'm going to be up against, because, again, of that special ability. But normally you wouldn't see it until you had the contact. Now, what's all this stuff mean? Well, right here, this line right here, is where your spies will show up that have a defensive role. I have a plus 10% defensive agent bonus right now because of my government. I have a 0% addition for offensive spying. And right now I can't show you any of the other things here, but this is where you would come if you wanted to conduct some kind of, diplomatic relations with any of these races. I can't do it right now because we don't actually have contact with them. You make contact with them once you're able to reach one of their worlds or they're able to reach one of yours. I'll talk about that more in the next one as well, because range to other empires and how you want to do that and when you want to do that is typically tied to tech and to what worlds you settle, and that's kind of an important part of early strategy. You click on information, there's lots of different things that you can do here. What happened last turn, race statistics will give you information, technical review of what you have, but the history graph is the most useful. And what I like to do is do history graph and then narrow it to tech. And then depending on where I'm at, this is pretty much all I need to know. That and fleet, all I need to know about in terms of how aggressive I get or how passive I should be with my neighbors. All right. This is where you set your tax rate. Typically, I leave mine at 0 if for no other reason I don't want to be adversely affected in my production. So the higher you set your tax rate, the less industry you have. So I typically set it at 0. If you want to just start padding your money a little bit, you could do like 10%. I wouldn't go higher than that unless you really just like having a lot of money on hand, but I prefer to just hard build things instead of buying them. This represents your command points. So you have, right now I have no fleet, so I have 6 command points being generated by the 1-star base that you start with on your homeworld. And I'm not utilizing anything, so I have 6 of 6. This is the amount of food that I have, which is 0, which means it's balanced. I have no freighters yet. Freighters are used to transfer goods and supplies, transfer colonists to different worlds, and to move food around. So if the plan is to have this planet right here end up being our food planet, we'll need freighters to ship that food around to the other colonies. Again, that part we'll do in the next video. Last but not least, along this side here, our research. And as you can see, we have double arrows pointing to the research topics, and that's because we're a creative empire. If not, we'd only be able to select one. On some of these really, really early techs, like for instance this one here, which I'm going to start with. Actually, no, I'm not going to start with that. Sorry. I'm going to start with electronic computer. If you have a low-level tech like this, you'll get all 3 automatically for doing the research. But once you move up 1 tier, you're actually going to have to choose which one you want if you're a non-creative empire. Doesn't matter a whole lot at the lower levels. As you go up, it matters a great deal, because on certain ones, certain levels, you're going to want all the techs in a tier. And again, you're going to have to trade or steal or fight for them if you are not a creative race. All right, so let's see. Let's go to our actual colony. All right, our food's balanced. I'm not going to worry about tech right now. So here's my food production. Clicking on the little emblem will tell you exactly how much you're getting. And I'm just going to set this to trade goods. It doesn't really matter. I could build a colony base, which would allow me to expand to another planet in the same system, but I can't go anywhere else with it. And I could build a defensive spy. Neither of these things do I need right now, nor do I want. As you can see here, I am generating 12 research points a turn. It's going to take me an estimated 7 turns to complete that first research. And that's what I'm going to do. Now you saw the turns go by over and over and over. So if you have it set that way in your options, then you'll just go through multiple turns until some event happens. In this case, it was us finishing a piece of research. Now I'm going to go to the next one, which is Research Laboratory. And this is kind of my general standard opening when I'm playing this type of custom race, is that I'll research up to Research Laboratory. Then I go up 2 levels in construction so that I can get automated factories, then I build an automated factory, and then I build a research lab, and then after that I sort of assess where I want to go next. Generally speaking, I then get the technology so that I can build colony ships, and I start expanding. But for right now, I'm going to grab Research Laboratory. Okay, here we go. This is our first ship officer. Offer you for 40 BC, so 40 credits, and 1 per turn. And he would give us +2 to the ship Marines. Yeah, we're going to reject him. Now, when you do that, they're still hireable for 30 turns, and it's important to note that if I had all these other slots filled up right now with officers I wanted to keep, and I had this guy hanging around, I wouldn't get any other offers. So I know I'm not going to keep him, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and dismiss him. It didn't matter because I had other ones open, but I just wanted to show you how you would do that. Okay, now we have our research lab. Okay, now this guy I do want, because he has +5 research and he has engineer. He only cost me $50. So for $50 and 1 BC a turn, I essentially get a research lab, and this guy will scale up over time. So I'm going to hire him. He's a ship officer, but he's giving me +5 research, so I don't even have anything to assign him to. And this is what I was talking about earlier about having an innate, an inherent ability that applies whether or not you're assigned to a colony or a ship. So I'm going to get this +5 research no matter. So I now have 20 research points per turn, which is pretty solid. Okay, automated factories is going to be next. Okay, now here's another one. Oh wow, this is awesome. Okay, I'm definitely going to grab this guy because he has mega wealth. So I snag him, and he'll pay for himself in no time. And he'll just keep giving us 10 additional credits per turn, just for being with us. And he'll get better over time, and if we want to use him to actually command a ship at some point, we can. But he has no maintenance, and we get an extra $10 per turn. You bet. Look at our income now. Yeah, sure, it took up what we had stored, but it's worth it. Okay, planetary missile base. We've got the automated factories. So now I'll start the research that gets us towards being able to build freighters. Or I'm sorry, being able to build colony ships, which means we need this tech and this one, and then we'll need another one from this tier as well. So we'll get started on that. Let me go over here. And we're going to change our priorities here for a moment. Now, you can see when I put multiple people on this line, I have these pickaxes, which indicates that I have industry, and then these canisters of waste indicate pollution. Now, there are techs later on that can sort of get rid of this for you, but right now, we have 20 production, but we're losing 6 of it to the pollution penalty. So we have 14 total. And now, we're going to build an automated factory, which will give us 5, and then +1 per worker. And then we're going to build a research lab. I'm not going to build a missile base right now because I don't need the additional defenses, and it's a waste of money. Okay, automated factory's done. And now I'm going to work on research lab. Wow, another researcher. And he has medicine, which increases your growth rate of your systems. So we're going to hire him. He's an actual leader. So we're going to assign him to the system. It's a pretty good start here, actually. I'm pleased with this. Okay, but I don't want this video to get too long, and it already kind of is, so I'm going to end this one here, and my plan is to put out the first couple of episodes of this series all at the same time on Sunday. So I hope that you have enjoyed this, and if you have, please hit that thumbs up button. As always, I appreciate your comments and feedback. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'm Mal, and I will see you later.